David? David. Will the Sergeant-at-Arms please call the absent members so that the Senate may reconvene following the completed Republican caucus? Members of the Senate, please return to the Senate floor immediately. Members, the Senate is now in session. If I could have your attention for a procedural announcement for just a moment, members of the Senate. We are currently in the regular session. In a moment, we will recess the regular session for the purpose of convening the 6th extraordinary session. Once we have convened the 6th extraordinary session, we will recess the 6th extraordinary session for the purposes of convening the 7th extraordinary session. Once we have convened the 7th extraordinary session, we will recess the 7th extraordinary session to move back to the regular session for the purpose of taking up today's business. We are in regular session, members. Without objection, we will recess the regular session. This is for the purposes of convening the 6th extraordinary session. Pursuant to the provisions of the proclamation of Governor Schwarzenegger, the 2009-10 6th extraordinary session will come to order. Pursuant to Section 9150 of the Government Code, Gregory P. Schmidt, Secretary of the Senate, Tony Beard, Jr., Sergeant-at-Arms, and Paula K. Rosetto, Minute Clerk, are in their respective places. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete, and the Secretary will call the roll for the 6th extraordinary session. Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested, Alquist, Ashburn, Benoit, Calderon, Cedillo, Cogdill, Corbett, Correa, Cox, Denham, DeSaulnier, Duchesne, Dutton, Flores, Hancock, Harmon, Hollingsworth, Huff, Kehoe, Leno, Liu, Lowenthal, Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, Oropesa, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Romero, Runner, Simidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Walters, Wiggins, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee.
A quorum has been established. Senator Steinberg. In a moment, we will call upon you, but first we will ask the Secretary to read the proclamation of the Governor.
Whereas, on September 29, 2009, the Commission on the 21st Century Economy issued its report with recommendation to change laws to improve the state's tax system. And whereas an extraordinary occasion has arisen and now exists requiring that the legislature of the state of California be convened in extraordinary session. Now, therefore, I, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governor of the state of California, by virtue of the power and authority vested in me by Section 3B, Article 4 of the Constitution of the State of California, do hereby convene the legislature of the State of California to meet in extraordinary session at Sacramento, California, on the 29th day of September 2009, at a time to be determined, for the following purpose, and to legislate upon the following subject: to consider and act upon legislation to address and improve the state tax system, including but not limited to the following: establish a tax structure that fits with the 21st century, stabilize state revenues and reduce volatility, promote the long-term economic prosperity of the state and its citizens, improve California's ability to successfully compete with other states and nations for jobs and investments, reflect principles of sound tax policy, and ensure that the tax structure is fair and equitable. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the state of California to be affixed this 29th day of September 2009, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governor of California.
Proclamation of the Governor having been duly read into the record, Senator Steinberg, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the Officers Committee on Rules, the Standing Committees, and the Standing Rules for the 2009-10 regular session be deemed the same for the 2009-10 6th extraordinary session.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Without objection, such will be the order. Seeing and hearing none, so ordered. The oath of office will be deemed complete for the elected officials. At this time, Senator Steinberg, you are recognized.
Well, I was hoping we might do the oath again so that I might give another long opening speech, but never mind. Little levity, people. Okay. I request unanimous consent to take up SCR 1.
Without reference to file, seeing and hearing no objection, consent is granted. Secretary Reed.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 1 by Senator Steinberg relative to the joint rules for the 2009-10 6th extraordinary session.
Thank you. All right. This resolution presents the joint rules for the 6th extraordinary session. I ask for an aye vote, please.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested, I, Alquist, I, Ashburn, I, Benoit, I, Calderon, I, Cedillo, Cogdill, I, Corbett, I, Correa, I, Cox, I, Denham, I, DeSaulnier, I, Duchesne, I, Dutton, I, Flores, Hancock, I, Harmon, I, Hollingsworth, I, Huff, I, Kehoe, I, Leno, I, Liu, I, Lowenthal, I, Maldonado, I, Negrete McLeod, I, Oropesa, I, Padilla, I, Pavley, I, Price, I, Romero, I, Runner, I, Simidian, I, Steinberg, I, Strickland, I, Walters, Wiggins, I, Wolk, I, Wright, I, Weiland, I, Yee. Yee, aye. Mr. President, ayes 3700.
Call the absent members.
Cedillo, Flores, Walters.
Ayes 37, noes 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, if there is no further business in the 6th extraordinary session, then the 6th extraordinary session will stand in recess, and we will convene the 7th extraordinary session. Members of the Senate, pursuant to the provision of the proclamation of Governor Schwarzenegger, the 2009-10 7th extraordinary session will come to order. Pursuant to Section 9150 of the Government Code, Gregory P. Schmidt, Secretary of the Senate, Tony Beard, Jr., Sergeant-at-Arms, and Paula K. Rosetto, Minute Clerk, are in their respective places. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete, and the Secretary will call the roll. Call the roll.
Honested, Alquist, Ashburn, Benoit, Calderon, Cedillo, Cogdill, Corbett, Correa, Cox, Denham, DeSaulnier, DeChaney, Dutton, Flores, Hancock, Harmon, Hollingsworth, Huff, Kehoe, Leno, Liu, Lowenthal, Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, Oropesa, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Romero, Runner, Smidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Walters, Wiggins, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee.
A quorum has been established. The Secretary will read the proclamation of the Governor.
Whereas an extraordinary occasion has arisen and now exists requiring that the legislature of the state of California be convened in extraordinary session. Now, therefore, I, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governor of the state of California, by virtue of the power and authority vested in me by Section 3B, Article 4 of the Constitution of the state of California, do hereby convene the legislature of the state of California to meet in extraordinary session at Sacramento, California, on the 12th day of October, 2009, at a time to be determined, for the following purposes and to legislate upon the following subjects: to consider and act upon legislation to protect and restore the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta while also improving the reliability and quality of water supplies from this estuary. To consider and act upon legislation to place a general obligation bond and, as necessary, a lease revenue bond on the ballot. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the state of California to be affixed the 11th day of October 2009. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governor of California.
Senator Steinberg. Proclamation of the Governor having been read, Senator Steinberg, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the Officers' Committee on Rules, the standing committees, and the standing rules for the 9-10 regular session be deemed the same for the 9-10 7th extraordinary session.
Without objection, such will be the order. Seeing and hearing none, it is so ordered. The oaths of office will be deemed complete for the elected officials. Senator Steinberg, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to take up SCR 1 without reference to file.
Seeing and hearing no objection, so ordered. Without objection, such will be the order. Secretary, please read the resolution.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 1 by Senator Steinberg relative to the joint rules for the 2009-10 7th extraordinary session.
Senator Steinberg, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for an aye vote on the resolution.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Honested? Aye. Alquist? Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeChaney? Aye. Dutton? Flores? Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Aye. Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero? Aye. Runner? Aye. Smidian?
Aye.
Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Weiland? Aye. Yee? Yee aye. Correa aye. Dutton aye. President, ayes 35, noes 0.
Call the absent members.
Alquist. Aye. Cedillo. Flores. Maldonado. Aye. Walters. Mr. President, ayes 37, noes 0.
Ayes 37, noes 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, if there is no further business, the 7th extraordinary session will stand in recess and we will reconvene the regular session. Members, we are now in regular session and it is time to take up outstanding legislative matters. Senator Ducheney, for what purpose do you rise?
I know the bill numbers, sorry, Mr. President. But I would ask permission to take up SB 67.
We're under unfinished business. This is SB 67. It is file item 84. File item 84. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 67 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review, and act relating to local government finance and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Thank you very much. Mr. President and members, this is a key bill that is a cleanup to the July budget. You recall, members, that we have exercised our option under 1A, Proposition 1A, to securitize dollars from local government. In order, and many of you, I'm sure, over the last 3 weeks have heard from local government, we must act this week to give them the opportunity that this bill does to get the financing and allow them to proceed in a way that will cause no damage or further damage than the existing economy is to their local government systems. It'll modify language done in July to make the bonds tax exempt, which could reduce the state interest costs by a couple of $100 million, clarifies and revises dates and timelines that were made at the suggestion of locals, bond counsel, and the treasurer in order to streamline the process, allow them to borrow against the future proceeds that the state will pay them back, and remove ambiguity for bond investors, limiting the securitization to one joint power authority, again minimizing state costs, allows the cities to borrow from the redevelopment agency to backfill the 1A suspension, and makes other technical and clarifying changes that, again, members, will help cities and counties be able to assist the state with the loan that's necessary that all of us agreed to in July. We know this has been a difficult time and it's a difficult thing to do, but this will help all of the local government agencies, cities, counties, and special districts to be able to weather this recession in a positive way. Ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Senator Calderon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this measure. The passage of SB 67 by October 15th is necessary in order to avoid the state repayment delays that would hurt the already severe cash flow problems of cities, counties, and other agencies. It'll enable the bond program to use tax-exempt instruments that can save the state as much as $200 million. Ensure also that as literally hundreds of local agencies move this program forward, they'll be able to do so with all required timely notices required by the Brown Act. I ask for your aye vote.
Further debate or discussion? Senator Benoit.
Yes, members, I rise in support of this measure. You know, this is one of those things where we come back and it's very important that we get this done today. We took far too much money from cities and counties in this last budget. That's why I couldn't support the budget. But at the very least, we make the hit a little less painful by allowing the states to borrow and allow the cities and counties to take advantage of that economy of scale. So I'm glad we're back, glad we're going to get to do this. It's a critically important measure. I urge your support.
Further debate or discussion, members? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Duchesne, you may close.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think the points have been well made by Senator Calderon and Senator Benoit. This is, as much as we don't like doing any of what we're doing here, this will make it easier both on the state and city and county governments to get through this budget year. Ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Duchesne? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Aye. Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero? Aye. Runner? Aye. Smidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Wolk? Aye. Wright? Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee aye. Wright aye. Correa?
Call the absent members.
Cedillo? Flores? Huff? Aye. Wiggins?
Ayes 37 on the bill, ayes 37 on the urgency. The bill is passed. Senator Duchesne, next item.
File item 82, Mr. President.
File item 82. This is SB 65, Senator. Yes? Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 65 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review, an act relating to state finances and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Thank you very much. Mr. President and members, this bill allows for the additional cash deferral and provides an increase in credit enhancement of letters of credit for the state treasurer, again, minimizing additional costs to the state. It defers certain higher education payments, revises the HUDA deferrals that had been for local highways that had been previously authorized, making that payment schedule easier and better for local governments. It requires payments by certain dates and within time frames. Again, and specifically states that the deferrals shall not apply to counties with populations under 40,000. Delays the state SSI, SSP payments to the federal government in March and February to be made in April and no later than May. Most of this, members, is really designed to allow the controller to better manage our cash flow issues throughout the year, and it does increase the cap from 2 to 3% on the annual amount of fees and costs to be incurred with the letters of credit. But again, that will actually save money and avoid major costs of interest. There is a companion measure later that will take up members for the treasurer on this same issue, but it could avoid costs of as much as $150 million in this difficult budget year. Ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Members, is there any debate or discussion? Senator Calderon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I also encourage passage of this measure. To put it very simply, the passage of SB 65 will put the state cash flow on a better footing by enabling it to better match borrowing and cash flow timing. I ask for your support on this measure.
Further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Senator Duchesne, do you wish to close?
No, thank you very much, Mr. President. Just ask for your aye vote.
Secretary will call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? DeSaulnier? Aye. Duchesne? Aye. Dutton? I. Flores. Hancock. I. Harmon. I. Hollingsworth. I. Huff. I. Kehoe. I. Leno. I. Liu. I. Lowenthal. I. Maldonado. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Oropesa. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Romero. I. Runner. I. Smidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Walters. I. Wiggins. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Weiland. I. Yee. Yee I. Wiggins I. Denham I. Mr. President, ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0 on the bill. Ayes 38, noes 0 on the urgency. The measure is passed. Senator Ducheney, do you have another item? Senator Ducheney and members, we are not yet ready to move to the third extraordinary session. We remain in regular session. Senator Ducheney, shall I go to Senator Padilla, who has a measure he'd like to take up? Senator Padilla, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
To take up SB 517, I believe it's item 79.
File item
517.
File item 79. This is on behalf of Senator Flores.
That is correct.
Secretary, Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 517 by Senator Flores, enacting relating to horse racing and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is on behalf of Senator Flores. SB 517 was approved by the Senate back in June on a 36-2 vote, approved by the Assembly on a 76-0 vote, and is back on concurrence. Specifically, this bill would allow a thoroughbred association or fair to alter the amount deducted from horse racing wagering, and also to modify or redirect the distribution of those funds pursuant to approval of the California Horse Racing Board. Assembly amendments that were incorporated simply require a notice of such of a modification in advance, and also require a certain reports of receipts and expenditures as a result of that redistribution. This is a 2/3 bill. I'd ask for your aye vote, and I believe Senator Harmon, Vice Chair of GO Committee, would like to comment as well.
Senator Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I rise in support of this bill. As many of us know, the horse racing industry in California has been encountering some problems over the past years, and I think it's entirely appropriate that this bill will help that industry, and I urge an aye vote.
Further debate and discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Padilla, you may close.
Ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested. Aye. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Aye. Benoit. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Ducheney. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hollingsworth. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Maldonado. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Romero. Aye. Runner. Aye. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Walters. I. Wiggins. I. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Weiland. I. Yee. Yee, aye.
Call the absent members.
Cedillo, DeSaulnier, Flores, Hollingsworth.
Ayes 36, noes 0. The bill is passed. Senator Alquist to be followed by Senator Denham. Senator Alquist, for what purpose do you rise?
Yes, I'd like to take up file 85.
File item 85. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 81 by Senator Alquist, enacting to regional occupational centers or programs and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 81 requires that a regional occupation center or program, or OCP, established and maintained by school districts as a joint powers agency, JPA, receive its operating funds directly from the County Office of Education of the county in which it is located. SB 81 has no fiscal impact and is consistent with SB X 34 by ensuring local control and flexibility. It has no opposition, and I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Members, debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested. Aye. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Aye. Benoit. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. DeChaney. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hollingsworth. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Maldonado. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Romero. Aye. Runner. Aye. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wiggins. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. Aye. Yee. Yee, aye. Mr. President, ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bill is passed. Senator Denham to be followed by Senator Ducheney. Senator Denham, for what purpose do you rise?
Item 76, please.
File item 76, Senator Denham. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 132 by Senator Denham, enacting to healing arts, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. President, members, SB 132 established a certification for sleep technicians through the Medical Board. This addresses a need in the sleep tech industry for standards and consumer protection that this bill provides. This bill is supported by the California Sleep Society, the California Society for Respiratory Care, and the CMA, among others. It has no opposition. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested. Aye. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Aye. Benoit. Aye. Calderon. Cedillo. Cogdill. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. DeChaney. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Hancock. Harmon. Aye. Hollingsworth. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Maldonado. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Romero. Aye. Runner. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wiggins. Wolk. Aye. Wiggins, aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Runner, aye. Hollingsworth? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Flores? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Lowenthal? Aye.
Ayes 37, noes 1. The bill is passed. Under privileges of the floor, Senator Correa. We will then go to Senator Duchesne, who has a pair of items, I believe, in 3X. For the moment, though, we are looking at Senator Correa under privileges of the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under motions to resolution for purposes of introduction, I'd like to have my senators help me welcome one of my district office interns, Rachel Berseri. She's up here witnessing our democratic system firsthand. Let's help welcome her to the California State Senate.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Senator Duchesne, for what purpose do you rise?
Yeah. Let me do 3X now. Thank you very much, Mr. President, to request permission to move to 3X, the third extraordinary session.
Then, without objection, we will recess the regular session. We will now convene the third extraordinary session. We are in third extraordinary session. Senator Duchesne, what item do you wish to take up at this time?
There are 3 bills, Mr. President. I'd ask that we first take up Senator Ashburn's SB 37. I do not know.
Members, we're going to take up these 3 bills in the third extraordinary session, and then we are going to recess for purposes of lunch and a Democratic caucus. I'm confirming that with Senate staff. That's great. Thank you very much. All right. Then we will turn to Senator Ashburn. Senator, could you give us the file item number one more time, please?
This is SB 3X number 37.
SB 3X. We're going to ask the Secretary, file item 37.
Senate Bill 37. I don't have the file number, Mr. President.
Thank you. It is SB 37 in the third extraordinary session. We're going to, all right, and the staff has posted this. Let me confirm with you, Senator Ashburn, that this is SB 37.
That's correct.
Ashburn is the author. We have amendments by Duchesne. We have amendments by Duchesne listed, and I believe this is actually file item 12 in the third extraordinary session. I want to make sure we're all in the right place on the right bill, members. One moment, Senator Ashburn. All right. SB 37. The author is Senator Ashburn. The file item is file item 12 in the third extraordinary session. Secretary, before we read, my understanding is that this will require a waiver on rule waiver, Joint Rule 10.5 without objection. Without objection, so ordered. This will also require a waiver, Senator Ashburn, of Senate Rule 29.3 without objection, deemed waived. Senator Ashburn?
We'll have to establish a roll call to waive Joint Rule 10.5, so I can call the roll on Joint Rule 10.5.
All right. Senator Ashburn, I am advised as we march through these parliamentary steps to ensure a fair hearing for your measure that in order to waive Joint Rule 10.5, we do need a roll call because we've not yet established a roll call today in the third extraordinary session. So what I'm going to do now, members, is ask the Secretary to call the roll. This is on the waiver of Joint Rule 10.5 and to establish a roll. Secretary, call the roll on the waiver of Joint Rule 10.5.
Onestad? I. Alquist. I. Ashburn. I. Benoit. I. Calderon. I. Cedillo. Cogdill. Corbett. I. Correa. I. Cox. I. Denham. I. Dusanier. I. Ducheney. I. Dutton. I. Flores. Hancock. I. Harmon. I. Hollingsworth. I. Huff. I. Kehoe. I. Leno. I. Liu. I. Lowenthal. I. Maldonado. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Oropesa. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Romero. I. Runner. I. Semidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Walters. I. Wiggins. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Weiland. I. Yee. Yee, aye. Cogdill, aye. Mr. President, ayes 37.
Ayes 37, noes.
Wiggins, aye. Ayes 38.
Ayes 38, noes 0. Joint Rule 10.5 is waived. Again, members, Senate Rule 29.3 must also be waived without objection. So ordered. Senator Ashburn, we are at SB 37. We are at file item 12 in the third extraordinary session. You are the author of this bill. We're going to ask the Secretary to read and then ask you to present, sir. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 37 by Senator Ashburn, an act relating to taxation, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Ashburn.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. This is the measure related to the California homebuyer tax credit. You will well recall that in February, this legislature took action to make sure that home purchasers in California had an additional incentive and assistance in acquiring a new home. Our constituents are very well aware of the real estate condition in our state and the problems associated with real estate, especially home purchases. And this tax credit was put into place to provide assistance to real Californians in helping them achieve the American dream of home ownership. This tax credit worked so well that in just 4 months, the tax credits were gone. The tax credit showed that the use of the tax credit produced roughly 85% of those purchases, resulting in home construction, producing 20,000 good jobs for construction-related positions in our state, from carpenters to cement masons to the roofers to all of the craftspeople who construct the homes for the people of our state. This tax credit, in the amount of $100 million, produced $100 million of tax revenues to the state of California and another $20 million in local tax revenues, and that's based on the fact that only $70 million of the authorized $100 million was allowed to go out the door. What this measure does is to provide the changes necessary to allow the processing of the full tax credit, the remaining $30 million as anticipated by the members of the legislature and the governor in providing this tax credit to the people of our state. This is a good program that has assisted the people of our state in acquiring homes and to share in the American dream, and I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion, members? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested. Aye. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Aye. Benoit. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. Dusanier. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Hancock? No. Harmon? Aye. Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero? Runner? Aye. Smidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee aye. Maldonado aye. DeSaulnier aye. Correa aye. Mr. President, ayes 35, noes 1.
Ayes 35, noes 1. The bill is passed. Senator Ducheney. Senator Alquist. For what purpose do you rise, Senator?
Thank you. I'd like to take up file item 5 in the third extraordinary session, SB X313.
All right, then this will be the last bill before we recess. One moment, Senator. This will be the last bill before we recess, and we'll come back. This is file item 5, members, Senate Bill 13. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 13 by Senator Alquist, an act relating to domestic violence, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. We heard this measure in September. SB X313 restores funding for 94 shelter-based domestic violence programs that lost funding due to a recent line item veto. Since the veto, 6 shelters have already been forced to close, and many others are on the verge. Without restoring this needed funding, victims of domestic violence and their children will be forced to stay in dangerous or life-threatening situations. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion on this point, Senator Corbett? Senator Corbett.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I also rise in support of this extremely important measure. This is the right thing to do. We have found the available funding. We all know the important work that our domestic violence programs do in saving lives and keeping families together. I got notice just the other day that one of my local shelters is contemplating leaving their office for failure for the ability to pay their rent. So this bill will make a huge difference and keep our shelters open. I ask for your aye vote.
Further debate or discussion, Senator Yee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I won't belabor the point, I think, from my other 2 colleagues. I think the only thing that has happened since when we first dealt with this particular issue until now is that we have put more families at risk. If you can just imagine the fact that when shelters close down or when calls cannot be taken from distressed moms and with their children, lives are at stake. And unfortunately, because of the delay, more shelters have closed, hours of services have been cut, and we urgently really need this particular fix so that we can, in fact, take care of individuals, families that are in dire need of assistance and help. With that, urgent aye vote.
Senator Ashburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong support of this measure. Domestic violence is a scourge in our society and a very serious threat to especially women and young children. Fortunately, using the resources of the state and of many, many local donations, shelters have been established throughout our state that provide a place of escape and protection for families in crisis. This is a very, very important program, and we did a lot in the budget that was problematic. This is among the most difficult of the programs that was cut, that we need to restore funding, especially for the benefit of the women and the children and other victims of domestic violence. I do, however, want to point out a matter of curiosity. As worthy as the merits of this program are, it must be pointed out that we could have done this much earlier. We could have done this before. Now, when this measure was first presented, the author was Senator Yee, and I have a copy of the bill right here by Senator Yee. And then I have the bill that we're voting on today, and there's no Senator Yee. Now, how does that happen? It's the same bill. I went line by line, page by page, word by word. It's the same bill. Senator Yee was the author. Now Senator Yee's not the author.
Senator Ashburn, Secretary advises me you would have some personal knowledge about how a bill authored by one person could subsequently be authored by another person.
And as an expert in the area, I want to bring this to your attention.
Thank you, Senator.
I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Yee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I do want to, I think, respond to the question or issue that was raised. This clearly is an important issue. As a child psychologist who have worked with distressed families, who have worked with kids in trouble situations, this is an extremely important issue for all of us. And I think that when the issue at the end of the session was raised as to whether or not this bill was going to get out, I was told that it wasn't going to get out with my name on it. And I will tell you that it was unfortunate, but this issue is much larger than Leland Yee. This is an issue that's much more important than an individual senator. And I was more than happy to give up authorship if by doing that, this bill was going to get out. And so I did that, and I just wanted to, again, just clear that particular record. I think that this incident raises, I think, a more fundamental question within the state legislature, and that is that we talk about diversity, but do we really understand that, and do we really practice that? And diversity, in my mind, on this occasion, is more about differences of opinion. And I think that sometimes what happens is that when you do have differences of opinion, there tends to be an effort to try to silence. There tends to be an effort to clamp down. And I just would like to remind all of us, senators, that we're not in the Stone Age. We don't beat people down. We are senators and we are legislators. And I just hope that there will be an opportunity for all of us to be able to express differences of opinion and still be respectful towards one another. And so with that, urge an aye vote and appreciate Senator Ashburn's effort to elicit that particular response. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no further debate or discussion, Senator Ahlquist, you may close.
Thank you. I think it's been established that there are many people, many legislators on this Senate floor who really care about the issue of domestic violence. We do not want to see women and children be violated, abused, and this state has a responsibility to see that these programs are saved. I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Ahlquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Aye. Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero? Aye. Runner? Aye. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Strickland? Aye. Steinberg, aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Mr. President, ayes 38, no, sir.
Ayes 38, noes 0 on the bill. Ayes 38, noes 0 on the urgency. The bill is passed. Members, at this point, we will recess the third extraordinary session. Senator Steinberg, it's my understanding that a 1:45 time has been set for the Senate to reconvene. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, Mr. President.
Then without objection, we will recess the third extraordinary session, and we will reconvene the third extraordinary session at 1:45 p.m. in this chamber. Without objection, it is so ordered.